welcome to Foster Friday Live. We are so glad that you are tuning in with us today for our special episode at our special time of Foster Friday Live. And we are actually still waiting on our third guest, and she will be here shortly. But I wanted to get a chance. We're going to get Kendal's story, Kendal's side of the story as a foster parent, and hear a little bit more about how she and her family work with the bio family and how they've kind of made some decisions about the relationships that you build. So as you guys tune in, I hope that you will leave us a comment and just let us know that you're here. And if you have questions for Kendal, and then when we come back with Dhestiny, if you have questions for both of them, I hope that you will just let us know by leaving a little comment. So Kendal, if you just want to do a quick introduction and let everyone know who you are, and then maybe tell us a little bit about kind of how this particular story started with Ava, your foster child, and how you developed a relationship with her mom.
Okay, sure. I'm Kendal Farmer, so I'm a licensed foster parent through a private agency. And my husband and I took Dhestiny last fall. So she came as a foster child. She was just about to turn 4, so she had her birthday with us. And we have made it a habit to attend court hearings, which is how we initially really made a connection with Mom. So we'd kind of seen her in passing at visits. We also do most of the transporting to and from visits. It's just kind of a thing that we had started trying to do. And so, but at court, we really made a connection. My husband actually went to the first hearing and had quite a bit of time before the hearing. And so she had some questions, and obviously helped her to kind of see who had her child. And so we talked to her then, and then I went to the next hearing, and we talked for a while. And that's where she, in the letter she wrote, referenced kind of breaking down and crying, and you know, that being her turning point, I guess. And so from there, we just kind of course, took our advice of the caseworker. So we kind of asked her what she thought. Most of it, we just saw her at visits for a while. And then around Halloween, she did come trick-or-treating with us. So she didn't want to miss that. That was the big thing for her, and we understood. So we met her. She went with us and our biological children trick-or-treating. And then we just kind of, from there, would touch base, mostly phone or video chatting at night and things like that, until she was successfully reunified.
Awesome. So now Ava is the child, and hey Whitney, we're glad you're joining us. Ava was almost 4, like you said, and how long was she in your care total?
She, about 7 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, this seems like a really special relationship that you and Dhestiny, her mom, have. Has this been the case for other placements? Your relationship with the bio family, or is this really something special that you developed?
This was different. I mean, we have had contact with other birth families and have always offered to be a support post reunification, but I think Dhestiny is just really one that, you know, needed that and really took that up. She truly wanted what was best for Ava. So when Ava came back and would ask questions, she would tell her, you know, well, we're all a family now. And so she would encourage Ava that, you know, we were part of her family and she could come stay with us, or that we were there to help her, you know, and she has embraced that support, and she didn't want Ava to feel like, you know, she just completely lost that connection. So she really acknowledged that and wanted to maintain that. So that's above and beyond, I guess, what we've experienced before. So
let's go back kind of to maybe when you decided to become a foster family, and in your training and preparation, they talk to us about, you know, what these relationships with bio family might look like. How did you make that decision for yourself about the amount of effort, the amount of time, the amount of heart that you would open up to these bio families?
I think it came with time. So I was licensed for several years before, and then took a couple of years break, and then my husband and I have been licensed a year now. So I think, you know, initially as a new foster parent and not being familiar at all, probably wasn't quite as enthusiastic about it. And of course back then we really didn't talk about that a whole lot in trainings, and of course, you know, DSS really encourages that more. And so as that sort of shifted, and then we got more comfortable, Of course, if you heard me speak before, I do work for DSS, so I will say that that helped, navigate the system and be a little bit more comfortable, I think. And so all that just sort of played into just, offering that and then kind of taking the lead of the caseworker and the parents.
So now that you kind of have some experience with the bio family, you've had multiple placements, you've interacted with multiple families, what's that first step, that first thing that you do to start a relationship with of course, the blessing of your caseworker?
I guess it depends. Usually it revolves around visits, honestly. So we have another foster baby now, and with her, I took her to her first visit and then just sort of offered my number to the mom. I know people have lots of reservations about that. I've never really had an issue. And so just kind of offered her that if she wanted to check in and then wait to see, how involved she wanted to be, if that was a connection that she wanted to make. And so that usually the first visit and just kind of an introduction is my first step anyway.
So I think a lot of our families, with anything, any foster care topic, one of their number one concerns is their bio children or the forever children that are in their home. How do you think that relationships with birth families have impacted your own kids? Because you have your own kids in the home.
I do. I have two, and my husband has two stepchildren. I think it has helped them. So when I started years ago, my youngest was little, so she was 2. So when our first baby left, she thought that her sibling left. And so that really was a big deal for her for a long time until she got old enough to understand. But there has not been near as much heartache, I guess you could say, just because with Ava, we still see her, we still have a connection with her. So for our children, I think that has eased, having her and caring for her, and they didn't lose that connection. So obviously we determined it was safe and appropriate. We wouldn't put them in any sort of situation that wasn't, so they're not involved from the beginning. But as we get that guidance from the worker and feel comfortable ourselves, and they've kind of joined in, they've embraced it, and I think they enjoy. The older girls that kind of understand have voiced, the teenagers are 16, so they've kind of voiced that they like getting to see that she is successful and that Ava and her mom are doing so well, and that she's very appreciative of the care we gave. I think that makes them feel good about what we're doing and kind of gives them a deeper understanding of why we're here.
So at what point, and obviously it probably depends on the case itself, the children and the family, at what point do your bio children get introduced or become involved in the relationship with your foster child's family?
It would depend on the case. With Ava's, it was, they didn't meet Ava's mom until we went trick-or-treating together. So that was a few months after she came, and she was doing well at that point. And, we were all going as a family, and we included her, and they really embraced that. It helped them understand, and help them to encourage Ava. And then, of course, when she would call and they were there, everybody was kind of listening to the phone call, so they had contact that way.
So that first conversation with your bio kids about, this is Ava's mom, and she's going to kind of join our family for this event. How did you approach that conversation, and how did they react?
Honestly, I think we just kind of just put it out there. They ask all along. The older ones obviously understand a little more. My youngest, who just turned 8, had a few more questions. So just explaining, not in great detail, but that, her mom loves her and does, is trying to better herself so that she can go back home. Because, we presented to her, wasn't that where you would want to be? If you had, for some reason, had to leave here, you'd want to come back home too. And so we're going to try to help that. And we want her mom to see that we love her. And so they really took to that. They wanted, they wanted Ava's mom to see that they loved her and they were taking good care of her too.
So hey, Jill, thanks for joining us. As we wait for Dhestiny to come, and she's going to join this conversation and give her side of the story and tell us a little bit about her experience and how her relationship with her kids' foster family was beneficial to her. we want to give you some advice as foster families. So maybe if you had one thing that you thought that foster families should know about starting relationships with their kids' family, you know, from the beginning, what might you tell a family?
I think that it can be successful, so I understand the hesitation. I've had it myself, and I certainly know, both professionally and personally, that not every situation is going to work out this way. But I think that it's worth the try, because the benefit for her and for us, and for what we feel like we're able to offer her ongoing, and helping that family heal is really the true benefit, and it was worth the risk. So no, it's not always, you know, going to end this way, and I certainly acknowledge that this is, you know, more of a rare circumstance, I guess, than the vast majority. But you know, it is something to consider.
Yeah. So let's say the foster family is on board. They're enthusiastic about supporting and nurturing the bio family. They reach out and they don't get anything in response. How would you encourage a foster family who maybe is a little more enthusiastic about a relationship than the bio family is?
You know, that's a tough situation, because I think there's only so much you can do. And so always looping the caseworker in, making sure, you know, I think that your worker knows, because I think sometimes our workers assume that we're not willing to do any of that. I've had a lot of workers over the years that were sort of taken back when I would say, you know, I'll meet mom at the visit, or, you know, mom can have my number. And so that's a mindset shift for a lot of the agency too, I think. And so I would say, you know, making sure that your worker understands where you're coming from, and that, you know, you have good intentions, and, you know, here's what you're willing to do, so that they can kind of encourage that too. And at the end of the day, they may, and it may not help, and some families just aren't comfortable with it, just like some foster families aren't comfortable with it. And, you know, those are just situations that we accept, and, you know, move on to the next one this time.
So Ava and her mom had a successful reunification.
Yes.
Everyone is happy and healthy, and that's exactly what we want in foster care. This, you know, obviously we never want a kid to come into foster care in the first place, but this was kind of the goal. This was a successful reunification. Everyone's happy and healthy. How can foster families continue to offer support and care for both the child and the family? What might be some tangible ways after reunification? Or even maybe they move on to a kinship placement or another forever family. What might be some things that the initial foster family can do that would be helpful or that have worked for you?
I think just offering to maintain contact, and even like babysitting. So that was where with Destiny, you know, we wanted her to know, if you need someone to keep her, you know, we will come get her and we'll keep her, and, you know, we'll help you out. Or even telling her down to physical things, if there's something you need for her, you know, we'll come get her and take her clothes shopping. You know, we do a child transitioning to a relative, and so we told her the same thing. You know, if you need a babysitter, you know, we're here. We're happy to maintain and be a support, whatever you need. So I found that sort of letting them dictate that, because I think sometimes it sort of can be a little bit challenging, or, you know, don't want to be too pushy with it and then have them back off. But we just kind of offer that as an open-ended, we're here for whatever you may need. We'll, you know, down to babysitting, or, you know, you need advice on something, or, you know, even something physical, that, and then letting them kind of navigate that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Kendal. And our goal, hey, Whitney, actually, have you ever disagreed with a worker who thinks it's not a good idea to have a relationship with bio family, and how did you handle that?
I don't know that I've had a worker think it wasn't a good idea. I have had workers that thought I wasn't allowed to, honestly. So I have had several over the years who just felt, you know, thought that the policy was we can't allow the foster parents to have contact. And so that's just a an education piece and a conversation. And again, it does help being familiar with the agency's policies, but of course you have, your licensing staff and others that can kind of help you navigate that. I am familiar with some situations, I think like she's referencing, where the agency doesn't feel it's a good idea. Those are sort of case-specific situations, so without knowing the specific case, I do think, maybe looping in the guardian and getting their thought, possibly asking for a second opinion, maybe a supervisor's thought on it. But at the end of the day, obviously, because sometimes there may be something that they know of that they haven't shared or can't share or whatever, that would prevent them to feel like it's not appropriate,
or at least not a good time. So, and Care to Foster, and I think DSS, and maybe you can tell me if I'm wrong, our kind of policy and our response to that is always take the advice of your caseworker. They are the expert, but at the same time, you are an advocate for your child. And if you think that there's something that you need or your child needs that would benefit from you having a relationship with the bio family, continue that conversation with the caseworker and act as an advocate. Does that sound right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So thanks, Whitney. That's a great question. But we are hoping to come back in just a little bit with Dhestiny. Unfortunately, she's not able to be here right this second, but we think she will be soon. So we will come back live with Dhestiny, and we're going to talk more about building that relationship and the bio mom perspective. So thanks, everybody, for joining us, and we'll see you in just a little bit.